Peace, fam. This is Coach Chris, your intuitive holistic coach, coming to do the third part of the childhood healing trauma series. Yesterday we went over nurturing resilience and self care, and then processing and expressing emotions. So, today we are going to go over building healthy relationships and seeking professional help along your childhood healing journey. So, I hope everyone is doing well. You're taking care of yourself, loving yourself, respecting yourself, and protecting yourself along your journey. Um, I'm grateful that we have made it this far in part 3 of the series, and that I am pushing forward. And we are going to start on the topic. So, the first one is building healthy relationships. Now, childhood trauma or trauma experienced at any time in life can have an impact on shaping a person's attachment style in their relationships, whether it's platonic, familial, or romantic. All right, and so the way that our reaction or the aftermath, the consequences that the result of what we go through with our childhood trauma, or really any trauma that you go through, it changes you, and it definitely affects the way that you interact with other people. And there's different types of attachment styles. I kind of was referring to it, I think, in the last video, but I didn't want to get into it because I knew that we would get into it today. But there's different attachment styles. There's 4, and then in one of them it's like 2 are combined in one. But there are 4 attachment styles that we will address in this chapter: secure, avoidant, anxious, and disorganized. Anxious, disorganized, and avoidant are considered insecure. So all of those are considered insecure attachment styles. But secure is a secure one. During childhood, if you were able to rely on your caregivers consistently to fulfill your needs, you were likely to develop a secure attachment style. You may view relationships as a place of safety to express your feelings and emotions freely without negative impact. And in contrast, when a child learns that they can't rely on their parent or caregiver to fulfill their needs because of a strained relationship or lack thereof, they develop insecure attachment styles. So, your attachment style is based off the relationship you had with your caregiver or the lack thereof. Basically, like with the secure attachment style, if you have a secure attachment style, your parents most likely were supportive of you. They, for the majority of the time, because nobody is perfect, but for the majority of the time, your caregiver or your parents were supportive of you, or they listened to you. They gave you a chance to speak up and have your own mind, to have your own opinion. You felt safe with them to come and speak to them if something happened. And if something did happen and you came and spoke to them, their reply was to protect you and to assist you. So that is a secure attachment style. When you get into relationships with people, after you have that foundation of security with your parents or your guardians, you get into a relationship with people and you feel secure in that relationship. You don't have like abandonment issues. You don't really have a lot of trust issues. You expect for that person to be who they say that they are. You expect for that person you expect that you can trust their word, that you can trust their actions. You expect that they will support you. You expect that you are safe with them. So you don't question them about their phone. You don't question them about their whereabouts. You don't question them about a lot of things because you are secure within yourself. And the opposite, in contrast, insecurity, it falls, those other attachment styles falls under the insecurity attachment styles: avoidant, anxious, and disorganized. So avoidant is just as it sounds. It's like avoidant is a failure to build and maintain long-term relationships due to being uncomfortable with receiving and or expressing physical or emotional intimacy. So avoidant attachment style happens when children are not given, um, they're not given enough love, they're not given intimacy, they are not given enough affection in their younger years. So the parent may have been distant, the parent may have not been as affectionate to them. um, the parent may not have been, they may have not have had an open door policy. It may have been that, maybe they were old school. A child is meant to be seen and not heard. Do as I say, not as I do. um, they just weren't emotionally connected to their parent, and they didn't feel safe to speak their mind, to have their own opinion. They probably weren't allowed to have their own opinions. It was do as I say, that becomes an avoidant child. Or they can become avoidant because they were abused, like hit, or um, demeaned. They were talked down to. They were belittled. So instead of them fighting back, they couldn't fight back because they were a child. Most children, especially when you're at a young age, your parents start bullying you and making you, they want to let you know that they are the parent, and you don't have any say so. They are in control. So from a young age, they are taught, that they have to bow down to their parents, and they are being abused and belittled and mistreated. So they just try to stay out of the way. They don't want to cause problems. They don't want to get hit again. They don't want to get verbally abused again. So they just avoid conflict. They avoid relationships. They avoid talking to people. And sometimes it's because they weren't taught to create healthy boundaries. And they they have unhealed wounds, so they're still trying to, they don't know how to assert their boundaries, and they don't know how to um, connect with people in a healthy way. So they just avoid relationships, they avoid connections, they avoid getting intimacy, they avoid getting too close to people. So an avoidant attachment style is not always that they completely stay away from people physically, or they completely stay away from any type of connections. An avoidant attachment style can also be that they just um, keep it surface level with people. They never allow people to get too close to them. They never allow people to um, get intimate with them in an emotional way, in an intellectual way. They keep all their secrets, all their experiences bottled up, and they don't allow people to get close enough to know them fully. They may have sex. They still have sex, but that's surface level. The act of sex is surface. It's is not true intimacy. Sex is just sex. Sex is not intimacy. Intimacy involves emotions, involves connection, and those avoidant types, they can have sex with plenty of people, but they don't connect emotionally. So that is an avoidant attachment style, and that's what a lot of people in relationships, a lot of women complain about men, like that they aren't emotionally available, emotionally um, intelligent, and it is because men are groomed to be that way. They are groomed to not be in touch with their emotions. They gotta be strong and they can't cry and all this other stuff. And we'll get to that on a later date. We'll get into the that topic at a later date, family. but we're just gonna stay on topic today. Avoidant attachment. That's avoidant attachment. Now, they can also come from, like I said earlier, strict parents, my way or the highway, or from absent caregivers because they didn't have a caregiver. They didn't learn an attachment style. They didn't learn healthy attachment style. So there's a void within them, and they just are not ready to allow people to get in, to get intimate with them in that way emotionally, to truly connect with them on a deeper level. That's avoidant. Anxious attachment is defined as having a fear of abandonment, needing validation and constant reassurance in relationships. It is derived from inconsistent parenting that does not align with the child's needs. It can manifest as being needy, clingy, or as codependency. So anxious, anxious attachment style is, just with that said, being you see people call people insecure. You're so insecure. Why don't you trust me in relationships? It's because they didn't have parents that they can trust. They didn't have caregivers that they can trust. The parents were either in and out of their lives, or the parents were always gone for work, or maybe the parent was codependent and the relationship was codependent, and they pass that down to their child. So they need that reassurance because they don't believe in themselves. They don't have enough confidence within themselves to know who they are, to know what they bring to the table, to know that they are enough, that they are powerful, to know that, to trust that this other person is going to love them and respect them and treat them properly. Now, that stems from parent-child relationships, caregiver relationships, because we're just talking about childhood trauma, but it also stems from other relationships and experiences that they have had, after their parents. So they could have came from a household with parents that they could trust and count on, and then they get into relationships. They've had experiences and relationships, whether romantic, whether with family, or whether just friendship relationships, friend connections, platonic, and they ended up not being able to trust people. People manipulated them and played games with their emotions, so they're anxious. They have abandonment issues. Like I said, somebody was in and out of their lives. It just was a lot of inconsistency with their relationships and connections. So that's why they have the anxious attachment style. Now, the disorganized attachment style is defined as having inconsistent behaviors, feelings of fear, distrust, and inner conflict. Children who experience this style often felt fear and safety with their caregiver. As a result of this inconsistency, the child is confused, which leads to disorganized behaviors. It can manifest in relationships as unpredictable behaviors like being aloof or distant to clingy and emotional sporadically. So that's self-explanatory. Basically, the child either that happens a lot with kids who have parents who deal with depression, or like different mental issues, because sometimes they may be fun and they may be lively, they may be extra affectionate. Oh, I love you so much. I miss you so much. Mommies or daddies are not gonna always be there to protect you, not gonna let anyone hurt you, this, that, and that. They may call these promises when they are feeling up. And then when they come down, that's children who have parents with depression, children who have parents with mental issues, children who have parents that are addicted to drugs and things of that nature, are just, irresponsible and disorganized. A parent that may have like ADHD as well. Those types of parents or caregivers, the children uh, typically have the disorganized attachment style because it was inconsistent. One minute the parent was up, the next minute the parent was down, lashing out, or being distant. If depression, where you don't talk to anybody, you don't want to get up, you don't want to sit, you don't want to talk, you don't want to do anything. So the child has to the child is used to inconsistency. So the child grows up inconsistent. That is the example that they had. So in their relationships is disorganized. One day, you get people with the hot and cold. You get into relationships or connections where people are hot and cold. They one day they love you so much, the next day you don't hear from them for a few days. The inconsistency, it's a pattern, it's learned behavior, and it's something that you have to work through. So that may be you, that may be someone that you connected with. If it is your attachment style, then you need to, now that you are aware of it, then you need to make some changes. And let's see. All right, so when you become aware of your attachment style, you should grab your childhood trauma healing journal. So you should have a journal specifically for your childhood trauma healing, so that, because there's tests and there's tests in this book that you can do to let you know exactly like the level of childhood trauma that you've been through, and also for you to write down, like write letters to your inner child, write letters to the people that hurt or abused you, to just journal your thoughts and release a lot of the things that you held on to. So once you have figured out your attachment style, and you can have multiple, you can have more than one child. I have I have all three of the insecure ones. I had the avoidant, the anxious, and the disorganized. I had all three of those because I didn't have a dad. So definitely the avoidant and the anxious. I didn't have a dad, and the disorganized because growing up in a single parent household, it can be very disorganized because your parent has to work. They have to play both roles. They have to play mommy and daddy. They have to provide, and then they also have to nurture, and things fall to the wayside. It does. One parent is not, parenting was not meant to be done by one person. It was meant to be done by two people, and you were meant to have a village of people to assist you along this parenting journey. And that's why a lot of us have to heal from childhood trauma, because we didn't have a village. We didn't have two parents. We had two parents, and they were both, traumatized. They were both toxic. Or we did have a village, and that's where a lot of the trauma came from, because it's most of the time a lot of molestation and rape and abuse comes from people that you know. Most times more times than other, it comes from people that you know and not that you don't know. So you want to take your journal and you want to write about your experience and how you can relate to this attachment style. You need to be honest and detailed and release all of the energy that you have held on to from the traumas that may have been repressed. So that is why you want to have your childhood trauma healing journal. You want to have that journal and have everything in there. I may create a childhood trauma healing journal to go along with this book, but you want to create your journal. You want to have everything in your journal so that once you complete your childhood trauma healing, you'll have everything in your childhood trauma healing journal, and you can use that. You can utilize that to help your children. You can utilize that to pass down the generations for them to be able to help their kids along the way. You can reference it if something comes up, because later on childhood trauma healing, can take time, and later on you can go back and see some of the things that you wrote and get a refresher. And with the growth that you had, the new perspective that you're looking at it, you may get some new things or some new memories may pop up that you want to add to your book. But or you can make your own book from that. You can write, autobiography, or you can write a guide or a book to assist other people along their journey as well. Now, the importance of building and maintaining healthy relationships, once you realize your attachment style, you can start to fix those things after you journal and you release. You can start to fix those things and correct those things in a way that you attach, and you correct it first by healing, releasing those things and healing those things within you, and building up your confidence if you have the insecure attachment styles, rebuilding, affirming yourself and building up those your confidence and your personal power. And you want to foster healthy relationships, then you can move into relationships with other people. So, fostering healthy relationships is essential to growth and evolution in life. We learn from our interactions and connections that we experience. Now, cultivating healthy skills and building and maintaining lasting relationships start with your relationship to self. So, before you attempt to build with anyone or thing outside of you, you must go within and declutter, cleanse, and release everything that prevents you from being your authentic self. You may not know who that is because of the trauma. This is why childhood trauma healing is necessary. It creates a better foundation and sets the tone for your health and well being, as well as any relationship or connection to come. That's another excerpt from the book. But healing your childhood trauma is very important and essential in you having healthy relationships, in you being able to set the tone of how you want people to treat you, of how you want to be seen in this world, you knowing who you are, you loving yourself and protecting yourself, you setting those clear boundaries and you enforcing those boundaries when necessary, you disconnecting from people when necessary. That is a part of protecting yourself and having healthy connections. If the connection becomes unhealthy, then you need to separate, because if that connection is unhealthy and you're holding on to it, you're going to set yourself back and you're going to become unhealthy. Okay, we bleed on each other. People project things. So protect your energy. Once you do your healing, protect your energy. Protect all the work that you have done. And I have a list of steps to build and maintain healthy relationships. I'll read a few. It says, heal and nurture your relationship to self. Set and respect boundaries, both yours and others. Be consistent and accountable to assert trust. Reflect and actively seek for the lessons. And actively listen to understand. Respond with a clear and respectful tone and let go of control. Look at all perspectives. Be reliable and dependable. That's just a few that I read from that list of how to maintain healthy relationships. And you are going to require these things from other people as well. Granted, we know that people are not perfect and they will fall short, and you will fall short. But the majority of the time, people need to, stay in accordance with your requirements, and you should stay in accordance with other people's requirements as well, as long as it doesn't go against either of your morals or integrity. Stay reliable and dependable. So the next chapter is on seeking professional help. Professional services can help children and families cope with the impact of traumatic events and situations to support their journey toward recovery. Healing is not linear, it takes time and can be unpredictable. This is why help from an outside source can be beneficial. There are plenty of different types of professionals, therapies, and treatments. Some are medically and psychologically focused, while others are spiritually and metaphysically focused. There is no right or wrong choice. Everyone is different and has had different experience, so the type of assistance and solutions necessary will be different as well. It's best to do your research and look at all your options without judgment. Sometimes the things we reject, sorry, my eye, I feel like something went in my eye. Sometimes the things we reject are what we need the most. So with that being said, when you are going through your healing process. If you get to a point where you feel like you can't do it on your own, if you start out and you feel like you need help or you need assistance, then seek professional help. Um, and sometimes what we think, um, sometimes what we reject, sometimes the things that we think are a taboo or that we don't need, like in the uh, heavily melanated community, black for a lack of words. In our community, therapy was frowned upon for so many years. People are coming around to it. People are, becoming more open to therapy and counseling. But for so many years, it was frowned upon, and it's understandable because there is a distrust between our community and the medical field, the shrinks, the medical doctors, all of them, because they have mistreated us. They have did experiments on us. They have did a lot of things to our people as a whole. So that is why that is something, within our DNA to help us to protect ourselves. That's from trauma. Stockholm syndrome um, is what a lot of people they they experience. But a lot of people whose ancestors planted things in their DNA for them to be leery or to protect them from those the medical field or um, the psychological field, the the therapists and the psychologists, because they were doing things to people, and people have to, you know, people can only go off what they know until they know better. And you have to find someone that you can trust, someone that you know is there for your well being, and someone that is not out to hurt you or report you or get your kids taken from you and things like that. Because that's a lot of things that happen when people were having issues. They would, tell these doctors or tell these therapists, and then the therapist would contact CPS, child services, and then the children would be taken away from them, or the parent would be committed, and then the children are in foster care in the system. So there is a distrust that I understand that people have. But if you can, there's a lot of coaches out here, there's a lot of counselors, there's a lot of Reiki therapists, there's a lot of spiritual coaches. I am a intuitive holistic coach. There are a lot of different therapists that practice holistic ways of healing and treatment that you can reach out to, find in your area. And also, um, if you just want to talk to a therapist, you can. Now, if the things that you're saying is going to be detrimental to you or someone else, then they have to, like a therapist or psychologist, they have to report it because, it's in their oath that they take. They have to report it to the authorities. But if you need help, speak to someone. If you feel like you can't speak to someone, journal. You need to release that stuff out of your mind, release that stuff out of your psyche. Release it, write it down on paper, burn the paper. Um, you can record a video of yourself releasing, purging all of that stuff out of you, and then you can delete the video afterwards. You can exercise is a good thing. Exercise and release those things, speak those things out while you're exercising and you're punching on a punching bag. Just release those things, and then make sure that you are filling those holes with things that are positive, that are reaffirming to you. But seek professional help if you need to. Coaches, I am a intuitive holistic coach, as I said before. You can check on my website, you can book a consultation, and then we can figure out a coaching plan for you. Accountability partner, I also do that. If you want an accountability partner, you can reach out. It's on my website, and we can go from there. But there are also other coaches that you can get services from. There are, life coaches, health coaches, spiritual coaches. You can go to therapists, you can go to psychologists, you can go to psychiatrists. You can try the natural holistic route. You can take different herbs, teas, um, You can detox, you can cleanse. There's multiple different ways. But if you feel like you cannot do it on your own, then you want to seek professional help. You want to get, and even if it's just an accountability partner, someone that you know and trust, but make sure that they know what they're doing and that they know what they're talking about, and make sure that you can hold each other accountable. Hypnotherapy is one as well. Reiki, meditation, and prayer is also mindfulness training. Um, let's see. All those things are available to you. You just have to reach out and you have to, take the first step. And as I said, you can check my website, and I'll have it linked in the description. And it's also, in the community page on my about page. So that is it. That is all for this series, part 3. The next series we will be speaking about reclaiming your personal power and identity, and then reconnecting with your inner child. All right, fam, that is it. That is all. I love y'all. Take care of yourself. Protect yourself. Respect yourself. Get this work done, family. Get this work done so that you can be your highest and best self. Ashe, peace.